no worries. Just get my stuff.
I'm just going to go live.
Yeah, we are live. We are live.
Okay.
Yeah, cool.
Can you see the picture then?
Yes, can do.
Okay. Because I'm just waiting for it to come up and then I'll close it. Okay, I'm just going to close it then. If you say we're live, we're live.
No worries.
Hey everyone, welcome to Wednesday Chat, where we're talking about the teams and readiness for the Rugby World Cup. I've got Overlap Rugby here. How's it going, guys?
Very well. How you doing, Dom?
Yeah, no, doing well. I think we're getting so close to the World Cup. I think everyone's getting really excited.
Totally. Less than a month.
Guilty.
Here we go.
We're as guilty as anyone else, if not more so over here. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm getting a bit stir crazy now. The build up. It's been the longest build up to a World Cup that I can remember. And I just want it to go. I just want it to happen. I want it to be tomorrow.
I just think because all the teams are so close that I think that's what I'm seeing at the moment. And looks like it's going to be the most open World Cup in living memory.
Yeah, literally the second day of the tournament is a month from today, the 21st of September. And on that day, I think you have Australia against Fiji, followed by France against Argentina, followed by South Africa against New Zealand. I mean, geez, those are just three of the most exciting games. We're going to get them a month from today on the second day of the tournament.
Yeah.
I'm giddy thinking about it.
Yeah. It's all kinds of rugby nerdisms coming in over here. We're just loving it.
So I think we'll do the breakdown for the show. We'll just do the first 10 minutes. We'll just talk about previous weekend. Then we'll talk about the island side. We'll go through how we normally go through the sides. And then at the end, we'll just talk about this coming weekend. So what did you guys think of this past weekend's games?
Well, I guess your headline maker was Bledisloe, 36-0 to the All Blacks. You predicted as such, and sure enough, they did come out firing. Yeah. I thought mostly what they did was just fronted up physically. I mean, they were mean. That was a mean performance. There were so many, even when Australia were attacking early doors, there were so many like marginal plays by that All Black pack, but it was great. But they were very close to the edge of the law. They were going flying in the side. Mm-hmm. They were roughing up Australia, like that Dane Cole's yellow card. There were a few incidents like that in the game, but I loved it. It was exactly what they needed to bring. They brought much more physicality and just forced the Aussies back. And the Aussie Locks, who, granted, without Rory Arnold, we were so complimentary for last week, they ended up just getting blown out of the water. I mean, they can't handle the physicality of the All Blacks in that mood.
Yeah.
I found that Australia didn't play that bad. I honestly didn't think they did. No. I thought their defensive structures were a bit deep, but that's just the way that they play. But I didn't think they played that bad, but geez, they were completely every single part of the game. There was they went up against a 7-man scrum and they got a penalty against them. That's unheard of.
Yeah, very rare you'd see that actually. In fact, Dara was making the point that I think Arnold is fairly key in their engine room to getting some solidity at scrum time, and without him, they're definitely a little weaker in that area for sure. But also things like Curtly Beale's performance, having a mare from the back, it unraveled very quickly. Like they started okay in the first 20 minutes, but then those two Lealiafano missed kicks, one at either side of the post, was just kind of illustrative of it going wrong. And then you had plays like I think it was actually Coleman got sat down by George Bridge on the counter attack at one point in the first half, and it was like, oh dear, the All Blacks are here to play very hard rugby, physically challenging them. And they did not respond well. And when a few plays didn't go their way, it just became a bit unstuck. But that's all just credit to the All Blacks. Like they fixed a lot of things. Their wingers were class. They were ruthless as they always are with selection on the wing. Cut the guys who weren't doing it, brought in the guys who this season have been, and it made a difference. Sonny Bill also made a difference. Got his hands free a few times, made them more fluid in the back line and able to challenge that line. As well as in the tight Tui Pilota.
Tui Pilota was huge,
yeah, awesome.
I thought, and we learned a lot of things. They solved a lot of problems. We still don't quite know, as you say, what the All Blacks are going to be able to bring against a blitz defense, a really hard blitz, because that's not what Australia bring defensively, and that is what all the other top teams bring. Ireland blitz, the All Blacks themselves blitz, South Africa blitz, Wales blitz, England blitz. So it's something that the All Blacks have struggled with that we haven't yet seen solved. But certainly on the physical front, they fronted up hugely. Yeah. And from an Australian perspective, they kind of did lay out the blueprint of how to beat Australia. I mean, Australia are looking to poach ball. If you just aggressively resource the breakdown on offense, if you don't give anything in terms of turnover and just hold the ball, their defense isn't tough enough to stand up to the best packs in the world.
I could be wrong, but I think it was like 24 turnovers or something ridiculous. Yeah. It was an absolutely ridiculous amount. You can't play a game with 24 turnovers. That's just it's impossible.
No, you're not good. Well, you're not going to win one. You can play it that way, but it's not a way to win it.
I've honestly felt the way to deal with that blitz defense is you've actually just got to survive the first 50 minutes. You just have to survive it, and then after that time, you can't have that kind of hard line speed. You can't have it for the full 80 minutes. It's just physically impossible.
That's true. That's true. You also got to mix it up. You just got to keep defenses honest. You got to try little chips over the top, try crossfield kicks. And in the case of some specialized ones like South Africa, you got to be brave and get outside that 13 channel. That's where the space is. And All Blacks have been less good at hunting that room, but it's in their DNA if they can get it right.
Definitely. Yeah. Well,
I just think South Africa changed the picture so much coming up so quickly. Yeah. But you just need the 10 just needs to see it and they can chip. It's good.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
exactly.
The other side of, like you're saying, you do need to survive the first 50 minutes, but you're 9 and 10, and then a few playmakers outside as well. You're 13, you're 15. You need to be seeing where the space is when they do rush up, and constantly learning, constantly communicating, and probing against those defenses with, like you say, Dara, some attacking kicks here and there mixed in with some wide passes. Just pull them this way and that, and be brave. Be brave enough to do it, because if you're
one-dimensional against it, that's when you can get beat up.
Yeah, if you end up reverting to type and go narrow all the time against a defense that's designed to come up and swallow that hole, they will do that all day. If you're not innovative enough in that match, you'll get swallowed up.
Yeah, and it's something the All Blacks got to work on.
The All Blacks still have to answer that question, but definitely their best performance of the year, obviously, and just at the right time as well. They've answered a few selection problems. Thought Ardi Sevilla at 6, that's where he belongs. I think he makes a few plays like a 7, but he's really a barnstorming, ball carrying kind of all action back row forward, and I like him at 6 for them, and it gives them space.
I'm a big fan of him at 8.
I can see that too. 8 could work too. They seem less flexible on dropping Kieran Reid, who is a big leader for them. But I do question his effectiveness this time round compared to the last time round, when he was occupying more space on the wings, playing more of that Dane Coles role of a ball playing kind of loose forward in the wide channels. He's doing a lot of carrying.
And Richie McCoy, you can
doing a lot of work for him.
That's it. Yeah, he has to fill that gap.
Yeah, and he's not as effective as it. As a tight number 8, he's more athletic than he is physical, just out and out physical.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. I'd be open to seeing Ardi at 8, but failing that, him at 6 with Kieran Reid there, and maybe Sam Cane, who was good this time. But they're definitely improving things all the way, and it's still the least settled. You can remember an All Black side going in, but that Bledisloe test did a lot for them and shaping what they're going to do.
I think it keeps the media quiet. It takes a bit of pressure off Steve Hansen.
Definitely, yeah.
And they needed that. They're angry media over there.
Yeah, well, they're more capable than a lot of other medias of just lampooning the side when it's called for. Like we can be critical from a world away, but it's their own media that'll get at them and force change when they put their foot down, which they kind of did this week as well. Like there was a bit of wholesale change in certain departments, and to be honest, the benefits were there. I think it paid dividends. It was a good move, and they retained Bledisloe again, which they're delighted for, and they do care dearly about, even though it's been that way for years. But it was a great performance. Good to see New Zealand back in time for the World Cup.
I'm so amped for that first game between South Africa and New Zealand. I think it's going to be a serious
an absolute war. This is it.
It's going to be a war.
It is just going to be war. And it's going to be the most intense game of that first weekend, bar none. And as a neutral in that regard, only but with a vested interest, because obviously whoever comes out on top is more than likely going to avoid us. So I don't know. I don't know who I'm rooting for now.
Neither do I.
Yeah,
neither do I. We'll see. Who do we want to avoid?
Don't know. we'll take it
both,
as it comes.
ideally.
Both, ideally. Yeah, as we said the other time, if Italy can step up,
get an Italy jersey.
Yeah.
Well, in the news they were saying that O'Shea who's the coach for
Conor O'Shea. He's an old Irish fullback, and he's a pretty smart guy. He's actually Italy. You're not going to notice it because Italy don't have any really competitive games. They're so much better than Namibia and Canada, and so much worse than New Zealand and South Africa. But they've quietly been improving pretty steadily. They have some great back row forwards and a backline that can attack.
Yeah, for once they can actually pass a ball from one side of the pitch to the other without dropping it and by finding space, which is an improvement on 4 years ago. But they probably won't get a chance to show any of that because they are, like Dara says, that much better than the two below them and that much worse than the two above them, that they're probably just going to fit in the middle of that pool, win 2 games, lose 2 games, and not really have anything to point at, but they will know in their heart that they are better than they were 4 years ago by far.
I know the feeling about losing to Italy, so...
Yeah, so do we.
So do we. We have.
Yeah. It's not a good feeling.
No.
But you haven't lost against Japan.
We haven't lost against
Japan. That's true.
We also haven't made a World Cup semi-final.
We're going into a game just before the World Cup, and we've got we've never beaten Japan.
Oh, there you go.
What? Yeah.
There you go.
That's mad.
So you can fix that on September 6th.
Yeah.
And then we'll just do a quick thing about. I watched a little bit of the Scottish game. I started watching it in the beginning, and then I got sidetracked. And when I came back to the TV, I thought, there's no point in watching this game.
Yeah. Well, other than that, it was very encouraging from France. France are getting a lot right. All of it, like they've been getting so much wrong for 4 years, and we've been really bemoaning the death of French rugby and being very, very kind of negative about it. But this year, with the resurgence of Toulouse, who really made a great campaign in Europe and won the top 14 emphatically, beating Clermont in the final and looking better than them. But Clermont also won the Challenge Cup with the level below in Europe. So now their team looks like a beautiful blend of Clermont and Toulouse with a few other kind of classy players. And they are playing attacking rugby, looking to flood certain channels with a load of their big playmaking carriers like Sano.
The unique thing that France do that's interesting, first of all, they've got a load of talent, which you can't forget about them. But then the unique thing that they do is they flood very narrow channels with loads of players and back themselves. They back themselves to execute 3-on-2s in a phone box.
Yeah.
They're very good offloading game, very good support lines, and they can find tries. And if they can keep that kind of form going, they will be a danger. Certainly, I would have them favourites to beat Argentina as of right now and get out of that.
Yeah, I think so too. I think on the weekend, I think Argentina were very unlucky not to win. I think
they were. That worthy of a try that would have been.
Vincent Koch would never have caught the guy.
I think he would have.
I don't know. I actually thought Vincent Koch had a great game as well. Another tight head stepping up in the loose, especially. He was everywhere. But I thought it was actually he was there and he made the tackle on the guy who blocked it. It was clear obstruction, had to be called back.
No, it is unfortunate.
It is unfortunate because what happened as a result of it was Argentina went on to score what would have been one of the tries of the season. But exactly. Didn't happen, unfortunately.
Yeah, they just never quite get it right.
No, they're not looking. It's not looking great for them going in.
I have to say that I only found out the other day that Argentinian rugby Twitter is a real thing, and they are going berserk at Ledesma because they just named their squad and they left out loads of guys: Cordero, Facundo Isa, even Juan Imov. People were calling for Landajo at scrum half.
Yeah,
they left out loads of players. It's a very curious squad, and a lot of Argentinian fans are furious.
Yeah. And in the last 2 games, I thought he was the only one that really played, and I didn't understand why they dropped him.
It's questionable.
It's mad, and people are annoyed.
Yeah, I actually see Mark O'Callaghan coming in with a comment saying if France had a decent manager, they'd be dangerous, and I'm inclined to agree. But their management has always been a bit of a different kind of buzz, and this time we had a bit of news that who is it coming in?
Well, here's what's interesting about France is that like in 2011, they've already announced that. Their coach Jacques Brunel is leaving after the World Cup, and the guy who's taking over is Fabien Galtier, who has a serious rugby pedigree, a very good thinker of the game, and he's actually already working with the squad as a consultant. Yeah. But I have a feeling he might just be the de facto coach, and Brunel is something of a lame duck. So I think actually they could be getting themselves together.
That's not like France are always so strange in how they like that little mutiny that happened in 2011 with Lièvremont, where basically it was Yashvili. Yashvili was de facto coach, and he was just leading
player coach,
and it made them all the way to the final. Like they're their motivations are very strange, and when they're there to perform, they can beat anyone.
Yeah,
and you do well to not write them off.
Totally.
But I do agree.
I think they're going to be prepping for 2023. I think they're going to start their cycle earlier.
Yeah,
and I think they're going to be desperate to have a win at home.
Unless it all implodes again.
This is it. Yeah. Well, what's encouraging is that that's about that Scotland performance. Like, they blew them away 32-3, scored some absolutely beautiful tries. And yeah, they're looking to play fast, attacking, but also physical and set piece based rugby, which is very French. And it seems they're going to their roots somewhat and timing a run for the World Cup, which it only takes one vein of form. Like, it's 7 games in a row. And like I was alluding to last week, like, I think France and Australia are uniquely placed to mess up a whole World Cup cycle and then somehow time a great run of form and manage to get themselves all the way to the final, just because they play a game that understands space and attacks space and finds tries, which is generally less attritional.
And you can shock anybody with tries.
Yeah, exactly. The best laid plans are often undone by a couple of quick tries, and then suddenly everything that was said in the advance of the game is out the window, and you have to play a bit of a basketball shootout game, which both the French and the Aussies love.
Totally.
So I wouldn't write France off at all, because I'm Irish.
Cause a big upset somewhere along the line.
Oh, they will. Yeah. That might be Argentina. They may be the ones to make way in that.
I would think so. At the moment, that's what I think is going to happen.
Yeah, because England, France, and Argentina, the 3 in that pool, and of all of them, Argentina have the worst set piece by far at the moment. Like, scrum, line out time, maul time as well. All of those things are dangerous against both England and France. So it could be a tough World Cup for Argentina.
I think so.
Yeah, you just can't go into a game with no scrum. That's at least 6 penalties in a game.
Yeah.
Three of them scoring position, 3 of them getting territory. It's the end of the game.
Yeah, totally. You just can't get into it without a scrum. Like, as you've seen with Argentina, like, their backs are scintillating. Their outside backs, especially, lovely. If their 10 can find a bit of playmaking, be it like Sanchez or any of them, if they can find a bit of space, they can very often execute. But it's just so few and far between, and they're having to contend with, like you say, scrum penalty after scrum penalty, and just no kind of fluidity in their set piece at all to get anything going.
No, indeed, they're not in a good way.
Yeah, and all the great Argentina teams who've made runs in World Cups, they've all had very good scrums. They've very, very good backs who can score beautiful tries, but they also did have a very, very rock solid set piece that they attacked off. Yeah. And this team looks a little different in that regard.
For sure.
Yeah.
With this comment here,
a little bit.
Yep. Inclined to agree, Chris. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, so what we'll do is I'm going to try to put hopefully it doesn't, if you guys can just monitor the feed that it doesn't go down. I just want to make sure it doesn't go down, but we're going to try this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool.
Awesome.
So we're going to actually show everyone the sides, and I'll just scroll up and down.
Yeah.
Okay, so this, obviously, guys, I didn't put this up. This is all from Overlap Rugby, so.
Yeah. It's a little insight into how we work and how we break down the squads. But
it's all like, this is very much just off the cuff from me. So it could be like, I think that's what's likely to happen. So blue obviously likely to make the squad, red likely to miss out, and orange could go either way. But there's 1 or 2 that could drift from one color to another. Yeah. But I think all of the guys in blue are pretty much locked to make the squad.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are.
So it looks like, so you're obviously thinking that they'll take 5 props, 2 loose heads, and 3 tight heads.
Yeah. Well, Andrew Porter is going to be the utility prop, and he's a guy who played loose head at under 20 level. Mm-hmm. He's very much a guy who is tipped to be the next Cian Healy in a way. He's a power lifter. He's got a reputation for being one of the strongest guys in the squad. He's dynamic in the loose. He can scrimmage well. Mm-hmm. And he made the switch pretty early in his pro career to tight head, and that's where he's been playing for a few years now. Yeah. So they'd be very confident about him stepping in either side of the scrum, and they would have no fears about putting him into the team. Yeah. So unfortunately for Jack McGrath, who just hasn't been at the level scrummaging wise, he's just going to be the prop to miss out.
Probably so. Yeah. Which is a shame. Like 2 years ago, he was at the height of his career and was a Lion. But yeah, he was marred by a bit of injury, but also Cian Healy has found some like ridiculous form in the last couple of years. He's aging like a fine wine. Really is Ireland's best good chance. Like
Cian Healy, like when people talk about Ireland, they talk about, your Johnny Sextons, they might talk about James Ryan, they might talk about Peter O'Mahony. What they don't talk about enough is Cian Healy. He is very much Ireland's secret weapon. He is, as a loose head, has a long list of tight heads who he has just demolished in games of rugby.
I honestly feel that Ireland probably have one of the best front rows, starting front rows.
I agree. Certainly a prop.
I honestly feel that.
Yeah, a prop certainly. Those two, Healy and Tadhg, are phenomenal footballers. And Cian Healy is, as we say, getting better and better in the loose. He's making steals. He's making all kinds of carrying plays. But his bread and butter is the scrum. And there are some, like, talk to Carl Heyman. When Carl Heyman was playing for Toulon, Cian Healy made a fool out of him. He made a fool just earlier in the year of big Charlie Femenuina when Leinster were playing Toulouse.
Yeah.
He's made all the great tight heads in the game have come up against Cian Healy and come short. He's a very, very good scrummager from loose head.
Yeah.
And Tadhg is just a magnificent giant horse of a man.
Yeah, he really is. He's very dynamic. And,
has gotten better at the scrum.
Has improved. When he burst onto the scene, some of his technical scrummaging and it was found out once or twice in that season, he was a little bit long. His angle was not quite right. He was relying a little on his strength. Yeah, his angle wasn't right. He has improved that immeasurably in the last season with Leinster. In fact, they were very much scrummaging as a unit in Leinster and being quite aggressive and getting quite low. So, their starting front row, Ireland's starting front row is definitely Cian Healy, Rory Best captain, and Tadhg Furlong. And that is, up there with some of the best in the world. Certainly no fears of scrum time.
Shout out to the two backup props as well from Munster, Dave Kilcoyne and John Ryan. They're a little bit less high profile, but they won't let you down. They scrummage very well. It's a drop off, but they scrummage very well. They scrummage as a unit. Yeah. And Dave Kilcoyne in particular is quite useful in the loose. Yeah,
definitely more so. John Ryan gets through a bit of work in the loose, but he's definitely more of a traditional tight head than a very good scrummager. And a very, very good scrummager at that. Like the Munster are a team that definitely prioritise the scrum, and these are the guys that give them that go forward, and they're among the best in Europe at it. And definitely.
Well, let's be honest, the drop off from Tadhg Furlong it's astronomical.
It is, but you could argue that John Ryan might be a better technical scrummager than Tadhg. Like John Ryan is, but he's not going to give you what Tadhg gives you in the loose. He's not going to be the ball carrying option. He's not going to be the defensive option, and he's not going to be that clean out breakdown option. Like Tadhg is such a great cleaner out of rucks. Yeah, you could bring him in against two poachers and he'll get rid of them. Yeah, where John Ryan. Like, we love him, but he's not at that level.
No. But Tadhg Furlong is a bit of a freak.
It's like Dane Coles and Cody Taylor. I think Cody Taylor's a better hooker, but Dane Coles is the better player.
Yeah, maybe a bit. But definitely, there's not much trade-off there. In terms of the scrum, they still focus on it and will scrummage pretty well, even if it's the second choice. Props. The thing about Porter is obviously he does cover both sides, which is the plan for him. He's also been quite a good impact man from the bench because he tends to come in and he has a good poaching game. He gets bridges over balls, normally good for a steal or two when he comes on late in the game. He's also very dynamic as a ball carrier in the loose, so he offers something different from tight head cover to what John Ryan does in a game where you want to throw someone in who can break it up. Andrew Porter, maybe that guy.
I think Porter will get minutes, but I think in the big games they'll put John Ryan on the bench just because of the scrum.
Yeah, for the scrummaging nous, which he definitely has. So they're strong in the front row, and it's probably it almost certainly at this point is Jack McGrath who's going to miss out.
Yeah, and if we move on to look at hookers, there's actually a super interesting dynamic that has been sort of going on for the last wee while. Rory Best is obviously front runner and captain, and if he's fit, he plays. And another guy with a great poaching game. Yeah, he's a good leader, good chat with the ref. They trust him and they like him to lead the pack, and he's not going anywhere. But in behind him, there's just a cluster, like a complete clustered scramble going on for the play. Sean Cronin, obviously, you can see there 68 caps is considerably more than what the two behind him have. But he is not somebody who Joe Schmidt has favoured traditionally, and he's had poor games under Joe, and it's widely speculated that Joe just puts a bit too much pressure on him. But he's probably the most naturally talented hooker that we have. He's very quick. He's a dynamic ball carrier, and he's someone we'd all love to see get it right because he's so talented and he's so dangerous when he gets going. But there's a suspicion that he might not even make the plane because Joe Schmidt just isn't a big fan of him, and the other two, Herring and Scannell, are decent without being spectacular. They're functional.
They're
players.
More like for like because obviously Ireland are quite a systems-based team, and a lot of it is a lot of the shapes they run, certainly with ball in hand, is to go through multi-phase, phase after phase, and they're very detail focused. And Rory Best, Rob Herring, and Niall Scannell all play a kind of a similar game. And when Sean Cronin plays for Ireland, he comes in normally off the bench for Rory and tries to slot into the same kind of positions and do perform a similar role. But that's not really where he's at his best. He's more capable in that kind of Dane Coles-ish mold. Like when he plays for Leinster, you find him popping up on the wide channels with two backs either side of him, and he's deceptively fast. He's burned some outside centres in his club career and really makes very, very good breaks and gives good dividends on the wing, which is why throughout all of his 68 caps, the vast majority of them are from the bench. That's often been a talking point. Like even if he's normally the bench man, and if Rory Best is injured, then they normally start Niall Scannell and have Cronin still be the bench man, because he brings that pace in from the bench, which is why I actually kind of disagree with Dara. I think Rob Herring of those three is the one that is more likely in my mind to miss out. Yeah, purely because I think it would be insane for Joe to ignore a guy like Sean Cronin, who can offer so much from the bench and break a game up at 60 minutes. So I do think Cronin's probably going to be a shoe-in for the 16 jersey for the duration of the tournament. And I think if they're not starting Rory Best, it'll be Niall Scannell who comes in, and they'll probably bring three and then still have Cronin on the bench. That's probably what will be happening. That's what's been most recurrent throughout the last 2 to 3 years under Joe. That's definitely how he's liked to use him. Yeah. But it's a bit of a, like, as a Leinster fans as well, we kind of want to see Nugget get a run out, because he's been awesome for Leinster all season, and
that's one of the big talking points, is how good he looks for Leinster and how not so good he looks for Ireland, and it's speculated that Joe might just be putting too much pressure on him. Ireland are such a technical, get things right, don't make any errors, be accurate in everything that you do kind of team, and it suits some guys more than it does others.
Well, like Leinster in particular, they don't play that way. There's more scope for Leinster players to be making mistakes, because there's more scope for them to be trying things. They tend to play a bit more fast, a bit more wide, throw a few more passes, a few more offloads, and Cronin definitely thrives in that kind of game. When the game starts to break up, he looks sensational in the loose. But Ireland try to put a premium on kind of control as well. Yeah. Mark coming in to reassure us, saying Sean will be on the plane to Japan. Okay, thank you, Mark, because we are really getting worried as Leinster fans.
We'll see. I hope so.
I do hope so. He's he's a bit of a secret weapon, because he offers a lot from the bench.
Yeah. Will we take a look at the locks then, I guess?
Yeah, you can pivot down to them. An area where Ireland are also pretty strong is at lock.
The interesting dynamic. Obviously, James Ryan and Dev Toner have been stalwarts now in starting in that position. Yeah. With Ian Henderson, who's a giant of a man himself, coming off the bench. This is sort of where Ireland make their money. They're very, very physical players. They make a load of tackles. They have great carrying game, great hands. Ireland like to carry and play generally in the tight, and they also like to lead defensively from that area. And those locks are just instrumental in getting it done. James Ryan in particular has been a freak since he came into the team last year.
He's so young. His work rate is something sensational. Like the amount of work they ask him to do is something that frequently concerns us, because we've seen even earlier this year, Leinster lost a game out in Toulouse, where what Toulouse did was target James Ryan, recognize James Ryan was the guy who was getting us over the gain line, stop him at source and see what happens then. And they did, and they won that game. You have these super high work rate locks. Look at Franco Mostert and the huge big engines. Yeah. And guys who like Itoje as well, guys who seem to grow into the game rather than shrink. Like it becomes 70th minute, and then suddenly they're making like 40-yard breaks out of nowhere, and they've been playing the whole game.
James Ryan is a similar kind of influence. He has freakish strength.
For me, he's the next Brodie Retallick, without a doubt.
Oof, I would hope so.
That's high praise. I hope so. He has
the potential.
He does have the potential. He is a bag of potential.
He's
very young.
Yeah, and like already pretty seminal and central to the Irish pack, one of the leaders. Dev Toner is in there. He's very underrated as a footballer. He's got great silky hands. The main reason he's in there is because he's a line-out option. He calls the Irish line-outs, reads the line-outs well off defence, and is obviously 6'11" or 6'10", whatever he is, and super tall, but a very good caller of lineouts. Isn't selfish in it, but knows when to go to himself. And if you look at the stats, the difference between the Irish lineout with and without him is huge. So he very much has to start for Ireland to get their lineout right, which is something that Joe Schmidt demands of them, because he loves to strike so much offset piece. So Dev is a lock in there to sort out the lineout, and you wouldn't worry about him in open play. He's very good.
I
remember how big he was. When Ireland beat the All Blacks last November, Dev was huge in that game. He got Brodie Retallick a few times. He not soft in the contact on either side of the ball, and he's not someone you'd worry about.
He's quite deceptive.
He is.
He doesn't look like he's that kind of player. That that physical, but I don't know how he does it, but he is that physical.
Fair, he didn't used to be, and he's worked a lot on it. He's grown into his big frame. When he burst on the scene, he was very wiry, very gangly, a bit of a beanpole, and was getting roughed up in a few games, but he's worked on that. He's also worked in a bit of, like Brodie Retallick, that first receiver option, because Ireland play a lot off 9. He can distribute as well. He has good pass off either hand to play other forward carriers onto the ball. So he can draw defenders and offload as well. He's a very intelligent guy and is one of the massive pack leaders, because as you say, he is the line-out caller. And there's been a bit of a scramble over the last 2 years to try and find a secondary line-out caller, because so much of it has been Dev, and anytime he's been out, there's been a bit of unsurety and a bit of an unsettled feel to the line-out, which is traditionally quite a strength of Irish rugby, and that's something that Schmidt will definitely be looking towards in with the other guys on the plane. Because we'll just talk about the other, like Ian Henderson you mentioned, who is all impact, has grown into his role. He's going to be the Ulster captain as of next season, because Rory Best is stepping down. He's a big leader for this Ireland team as well.
He's a great player. He's extremely physical, and again, someone you can throw in who's not just going to steady the ship. He's going to go in and make an impact. He operates in narrow channels, offloads a bit, but not too much. But generally, what he's there for is carries and tackles, and he's going to make an impact in every single one of them. A great footballer who you wouldn't worry about either. In terms of fourth choice,
is the screen frozen, guys?
Not for us. I'm not sure.
No, it's fine. Sorry, it just froze on my side.
No worries. In terms of the fourth choice, there's an interesting dynamic going on. John Klein, who's a South African-born lock who's been playing for Munster for the last few years, who qualifies through residency, has just come into the squad now, having not been there beforehand. And the rumor in the Irish media is that he's going to go as a backup tight head scrummager, because Joe famously very much likes his tight head scrummagers. He's had a few other guys in the squad to fill that role in the past. Outside of James Ryan, none of those other locks have like to scrummage in behind the tight head, where John Klein does. So I think they're going to bring him, which leaves out or Tyke Byrne can go into the back row. He's a guy who, if you haven't heard of him, he could be a guy who makes a name for himself at this tournament. He's been a superstar in the Pro 14.
Was lighting it up for Scarlets initially, because he's a Leinster Academy player, but he had to be let go because of an injury early in his career. Got picked up by the Clonethley Scarlets and made a name for himself over in Wales, and had a sensational season in, was it 2017 or 18?
It was either 2017 or 2018, or maybe over both of those seasons. But he's moved to Munster now, but his main thing is he's a phenomenon at the breakdown. He is as good a poacher as you can see, and certainly he was at the Pro 14 level, which is a few rungs below test level, I know, but looking quite similar to David Pocock in the sense that you just play a game against him and he would get 4 or 5 steals and he would just be unplayable. So we're very excited about it.
A lot of the squads, a lot of the countries have got, obviously, they try to have dual positions, because there's only 31 players going. And normally, it's either 6 that they cover 4 or something like that. Are any of those, could they cover as a Lucy? Or?
Tyke Byrne can, and Tyke Byrne I think will come. Even if those 4 guys go, I think Tyke Byrne will come as a back row. I'd be shocked if they left him out of the squad. And outside of him, Ian Henderson can play number 6. That's just about it. For the most part, they're specialist locks, but Ian Henderson can play 6.
So the locks, it's an interesting one, just because that John Klein thing has only happened in the last. He qualified like I think 2 days before the Italy test a few weeks ago, and then was straight in for that one. So that was his one cap there. He's been a stalwart for Munster, but it is, as Dara says, that tight head scrummaging aspect to it that he wants to lock down, because all of the other exciting lock potential partners we have for James Ryan, we don't actually have any cover in behind him to scrummage.
If James Ryan goes down, we're kind of screwed.
Exactly. So he wants a sure scrum, even if it means like John Klein is unlikely to be even featured in the 23 on the big matches, if all going well, but he is there to cover the unfortunate.
If James Ryan stays fit, there's every chance that John Klein just gets 40 to 50 minutes in the whole tournament.
But he's there just in case, because he's the only one who can hold down that tight head side of the scrum. In the loose forwards, then we'll just factor Tyke Byrne into our thinking in that one as well, because he obviously plays 6 as well, and potentially 8 too. He has kitted out for 8 a few times as well, so he's just very versatile. It would be a kind of a curious decision to leave him out of the squad, because he can cover so much.
Actually, I'm just noticing there in the loose forwards, Jack Conan really could be blue instead of orange there. Yeah. He's definitely going to go as backup 8 to CJ, or even taking the 8 off CJ. There's quite a bit of rumor about that.
Yeah.
But the incumbent back row is Peter O'Mahony, CJ Stander, and Josh van der Fleer.
Yeah.
CJ Stander's been there forever. We have our issues with him, but he's a big physical enforcer. They like him as a defensive option. Josh is an out-and-out open side. Guy who plays actually more than a jackler, he plays as a tackler in defense. He just he'll tackle the absolute legs off you.
He's very quick.
Regularly counts 8 or 9 carries and 20 plus tackles in a game. Yeah. He's just a phenomenal work rate, and they love him. Yeah. And then you have Peter O'Mahony, who's your pack leader, decision maker, and playmaker. He's the guy who he is licensed to make plays. He makes steals at the ground. He's incredibly important. Yeah. He's one of the best defensive line-out options in the world. His read on a line-out is great, and so is his spring and hands up there. So if you put him at 2, he's going to be an absolute nightmare for an opposition hooker to deal with. Yeah. And he's also dynamic at the breakdown.
Yeah.
I also think he's got that mongrel in him, he's real.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. He's one of those guys who just looks like he's sore to tackle. Like I remember seeing in a game against the All Blacks, actually, in that game in Dublin, Kieran Reid put a hit on him and then came off like holding his shoulder and clutching it. And then a few minutes later made a horrendous drop. Yeah. Like he's got those intangible plays where he's tough. Yeah. Peter O'Mahony is a very tough man. You'd like an old boot, like you'd be doing very well to get him out of there. Even when he's patched up on one leg, he'll come in and make a steal for you. Like
he'll make big plays in big moments as well. He's a guy who
I just remember that he chased down the one winger. I can't remember. I'm sure it was the New Zealand game where he chased down the player.
It was Ben Smith. I think
picked the ball away from Ben Smith. Just plucked it away from him. Oh, it was fantastic.
No, he's a pure ball forager. Like, and be it at line out time, at breakdown time, or in the loose, he can rip it from a maul too. He's all constantly hunting and attacking the ball and trying to make plays. And very often he does succeed. He's very instrumental to how Ireland play the game. And yes, he's a key man who will be looking to start every single big game that we're looking to play. The rest are slightly more fluid. I feel like CJ has been the guy at number 8. Yeah. But Jack Conan has really been putting his hand up for Leinster for the last 2 to 3 years. He's been pretty.
Jack Conan is a much better offensive number 8 than what CJ brings. CJ's more defensive, and certainly any remnants of a great carrying game that CJ once has seems to have gone away in the last year or so. He really doesn't give you much with the ball, but that sort of suits Joe sometimes, because Joe likes his pack to be so to narrow and just hold the ball and be accurate and don't drop it and keep making them make tackles as opposed to trying to make things happen, which is, you can think of it what you will. That's how Joe likes to approach the game. But I think Jack Conan has a chance of getting in there, but it'll likely be CJ Stander.
Yeah. We have a comment there from Jean-Pierre. Yeah.
I love it. South Africans living in Galway. Great city.
Yeah. It'd be a good place, as good a place as any to enjoy the World Cup.
Hopefully for Juan there, we hopefully end up meeting in the final.
That's the dream. That's the dream. Ireland Springboks for the final. Let's have it.
Yeah.
But what we're saying, Jack Conan definitely offers a bit more, just a ball, like a bit more of a distributor kind of game as well. Like he's a playmaking number 8, a guy who's very athletic, picks good lines rather than trying to occupy 2 defenders with one carry. He'll try and go between them and get his hands free every now and then. He's more of a footballer. But that's more of a kind of a, like, depending on how they feel CJ's form is, we still haven't seen him in this warm-up game. But Jack Conan's definitely the form number 8 in Ireland, I would argue. Yeah. But CJ's the incumbent and he's part of the system. And when CJ's on the pitch, tends to lead the fringe defence as well, which is a role that Joe will definitely be emphasising. So
Jack wouldn't be as good at that.
Oh, we lost you there?
We were frozen. Oh, no, there you go. Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so CJ Stone is one of my favourite players. He's an ex-Bull, so I have to love it.
Yeah. Loyalty lies.
Yeah, no, fair enough. When he has his big games, we love him too. Yeah. Outside of that 4 really of Conan and the starting trio, it depends on whether they want to bring 5 or 6. But I think the 5th is going to be Tadhg Byrne, assuming they bring John Klein. And then outside of that, it's a straight shootout for me between Jordy Murphy and Rhys Ruddock.
Yeah.
And I don't know who he's going to go with. It could be either. Both are versatile. both. I think maybe Geordie. He'll probably go for Geordie.
Yeah,
but
he's tended to trust Geordie Murphy a bit more, even though Rhys Ruddock has togged out as captain before, as he did against Italy. But Geordie Murphy covers 8 as well as covers all the positions in the back row. Now that I think actually he's played 6, 7, and 8 under Joe Schmidt before, so that'll stand him in better stead.
He's a good player who's never let Joe down and never let Ireland down. So I'd say Geordie Murphy will be good to go on the plane
probably, and that'll mean bringing 6 loose forwards, including Tyg Byrne as one of them.
What do you think the split's going to be? 17, 14, 18, 13?
Yeah, it's one or the two. It depends on how many loose forwards they want to bring. They could bring 5 and cut both Geordie Murphy and Rhys Ruddock, and then just bring the 3 starters, Jack Conan and Tyg Byrne, and that would be just a 17-14 split. But if they do that, they'll have to probably bring either just 4 outside backs or 3 centres, and I feel like they really do want to bring all 4 of their centres.
Yeah.
So it's hard to tell. Like Joe will spring some surprises on us, but it'll be one of those 2 anyway, and it'll depend on the loose forwards. We know he's going to bring 5 props and 4 locks.
Yeah, for sure. I just see Mark O'Callaghan coming in with CJ very one-dimensional with the ball, and I'm inclined to agree. To be honest, one of the more frustrating things I've noticed about our play with CJ at 8 is that there's just no proper link between backs and forwards. It all falls on 9 and 10, Murray and Sexton. Whereas in years gone by, we had Jamie Heaslip in that 8 jersey, and he was a ball player as well as that hard-nosed enforcer. He was a really total footballer.
Certainly, neither Jack Conan nor CJ would be on Jamie Heaslip's level.
Neither of them are as good as him. But in Jamie Heaslip's opinion, he wants to see Jack Conan start at 8, and I'm inclined to agree, because I think that one-dimensional nature to CJ's game, where he is just defenses know as soon as he gets the ball, he's going to carry, because he doesn't have a passing game to speak of. So he just ends up soaking a lot of hits, gets through a lot of work, but it's quite attritional. And it hasn't been as effective in that role since, whereas Jack Conan tends to probably get a bit more for less with ball in hand.
Just see Mark O'Callaghan has come back in again with Rhys will go, who will captain the side when Best and Sexton aren't on the pitch. And I don't know that that's true. I think Peter O'Mahony, for starters, will captain when Best and Sexton won't be there. And I just don't think there's room for him. I don't think Joe will have room for him.
He's not as versatile. Like, even though he's a big man, he doesn't tend to kid out at 8. He really is a 6 and quite a physical one. But I don't know if he's quite on the level this season. To be honest, for this season for Leinster, he hasn't really been hitting his own level of form that he had been in a couple of years gone. So I think he had a
chance to make a name as well and to make a real claim at it against Italy, and his form wasn't really great in that game. It's a bit harsh, obviously, opening game of the season, but that's the way it goes, and I don't think he did enough.
Yeah. The other guy there is Tommy O'Donnell.
He's not going to go.
Who's probably not going to go. He's just got back in a vein of form enough to make a run at it. He's an exciting enough ball carrier, but he's a little bit slight, to be honest, and considering the physical, attritional, multi-phase game that Ireland are bringing, I don't fully see how Tommy O'Donnell fits in. He's a tremendous athlete and a really good player, but I think he'll probably be one to miss out. As you can see, he's denoted in red there.
Like a Quacker Smith, just a little bit too slight.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a fair comparison, actually.
Yeah, to be fair, because they're both very fine players in their own right. Yeah, it's just not quite going to see, because there is quite a scrap going on in loose forwards. Traditionally, Ireland are quite strong in this area, and again, these are all very good players who I'm reading right now, and it's
certainly if you had to bring one of them, if someone goes down, you have to bring one of them outside of if Peter O'Mahony goes down.
Yes.
You wouldn't be too worried.
Yeah, Peter O'Mahony is the one guy in of all of them who is the most important, I think. But I would similarly say Josh van der Fleer, although not on Peter O'Mahony's leadership level, he is the best out and out open side there, and he's the best chance of giving balance to the back row.
Interesting question there from Juan.
That's an interesting question, yeah.
How do you feel about the future depth of Irish rugby? I admire your investments in knowledge and management in rugby, but how is your school rugby growing as your depth comes from there?
Yep.
To be honest, the depth comes from schools for sure. I mean, schools rugby is pretty healthy. There's a competition in every province, the biggest one being Leinster Schools Cup,
but Munster's pretty traditional as well, and they get good turnouts for it too.
I think the main generator, obviously, there's a few big schools in Leinster, like
Blackrock,
St. Michael's being the biggest, Blackrock, and then maybe Clongo's school are huge. But then where the actual players come from Leinster is they go through the Leinster Academy system, and the academy works with the schools selects the right guys, and then they disappear for a couple of years. You might see one or two of them at underage level, but for the most part, they disappear for a couple of years and come out as athletes. And certainly what we've been seeing from Leinster in recent seasons is just wave after wave of very impressive young rugby players in all positions coming through. So it feels like
Joe Lyons
pretty big.
Coming in and talking about the Leinster Academy. The Leinster Academy has been doing a stellar job for the last few years. It really is comparable to what New Zealand do and what the Crusaders have. Whether it's better or not remains to be seen, but there's definitely there's an overlap now where it's become a point where a lot of Leinster Academy players are bolstering the other provinces. They're also going further afield. There are a few. We lost a guy, Cathal Marsh, who's now at number 10 for New York in the MLR in the States. There's a lot more exports of Irish talent coming due to that academy system.
The next big thing that you're going to see in Europe is the Leinster Academy is going to start to get plundered by other provinces and other clubs
English and French clubs should be raiding that the Leinster Academy already. I can't understand how it doesn't happen as much. Because there is a surplus of talent. There's a lot of really good guys every season who struggle to get game time for Leinster because they can't get into the squad, even though they're excellent. And Leinster A, the team below, tend to light up the kind of lower domestic comps as well. So the stream of talent is very good, and the system that has been set up ever since the IRFU kind of took over with professionalism, but now since Joe's taken over as well, it's very much all filtering up to feed the top team. But the talent is being kept domestically, and things like Simon Zebo is plying his trade. He's probably has the most minutes at fullback this cycle, apart from Carney. But he's now playing in Racing, so he's not available for selection, which is similar to what New Zealand or Australia tend to do as well. Trying to implement that and just make sure that the homegrown players have to stay to play for Ireland, which is something Joe is very, very much trying to stick to, and I think he's right to, because otherwise you just open the floodgates to kind of plundering of the talent, and then a general lack of quality rugby then in Ireland, which hasn't yet happened, thanks be to God. But the future is kind of bright, I think, because we are producing our own players and giving them minutes and exposing them kind of over the course of 2 or 3 seasons in the Pro 14.
Well, it's quite strange, you take a player like I'm just talking about South African context. The player like Malcolm Marx can only earn about 4 or 5 million here in South Africa, but he'll go earn 18 million playing in England.
There are similar dynamics at play in with Ireland. There's no question that France and England offer more money. We're probably in a position to pay them a little more than what South Africa is. But it still is a growing problem and could tip over and end up being a real problem where you have loads of test players leaving to go play in France.
Everyone playing for the billionaires in France.
That's what we're trying to avoid. We're fighting against it tooth and nail, and Leinster are the thorn in their side, because every time they try and reconfigure the tournament or something, Leinster will turn up and win it, and it's very annoying because you want to try and tip the scales in favour of England and France. But I think the future is pretty bright as far as homegrown talent in Ireland, because we are focusing on it, and it's the clubs are doing their jobs, particularly Leinster.
Agreed.
I suppose we'll move on to the backs. The wee halfbacks, the scrummies.
Well, I can assume I know who the starting scrummy is.
I'll give you one guess. Yes, it's Conor Murray. 72 caps. He is instrumental to how we play this game. His box kicks are, when he's on form, his box kicking game is the best in the world. He's like, whether he's the best 9 in the world is up to debate. Depends what you want to do as a team. He's
very physical. He will punish teams around the fringes. He matches up very well actually against the All Blacks, who don't resource that area that well. He can snipe. He can snipe with physicality and break a tackle if he catches a weak inside shoulder. But one of the things that he has been working on pretty consistently, now he has had some injuries, but when he was last at his best and is fully fit in 2018, he was really working on his sharp passing game, really bringing guys into the game using his passing game. It's something he's actively focused on. I'm excited to see him go. We haven't seen him play too much consistent rugby, which is why I think Joe Schmidt is going to take a risk and just pick the 2 scrum halves. And he if need be, if Carberry's fit or maybe even Keith Earls, he will have someone filter in there if need be. But for the most part, I think both a combination of Murray and his backup Marmion are going to be starting or on the bench in every game, and I think that's because those guys need to be played into form.
That's probably fair.
Okay.
Marmion is less of a like-for-like change with him, but he's slightly quicker off the base than Murray, but it's certainly less controlled. Ireland do like to play a lot off 9, which is why Murray is very much like in the French Petit General mold. He a lot of it goes through him, and the decisions whether to kick and how to kick, it's between him and Sexton that is being discussed.
Yeah.
And his box kick is a very useful weapon for Ireland, who are a possession-based team and a physicality-based team, but they like to kick to contest to get it back. And he gives such hang time on those box kicks. It's freakish the amount of air he can get on them, and it just gives the wingers every chance, and the likes of Carney, who's an absolute weapon in the air as well, to get up and compete for it. Because the other thing is actually both our centres are quite adept under the high ball as well. Like when we were coming to the last World Cup, it was a case of a backline full of fullbacks and kick the leather off the ball and try and retrieve. We've grown a little bit more in that since then, but one thing that is still consistent is that Murray
still be part of it. Yeah.
It's a big part of it. Murray's box kicking game and exit game is a huge factor. Luke McGrath is the one that you have in red.
Yeah, he's not going to make it.
Probably not. So. The rumblings are that he's slipping ahead of Marmion, but I don't believe it, because Marmion has been trusted by Joe before.
I haven't heard that rumbling. That'd be shocking. I would be shocked if Luke McGrath made the play.
Yeah.
That said, I love him. He's great. Super defender. Can play very similar to Murray. Has not quite as good a box kick, but a good box kick. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't worry if Luke McGrath had to go. I wouldn't worry, but I would be shocked if he got in ahead of.
Well, Marmion's been the incumbent and has he was starting at 9 when we beat the All Blacks last year. Murray was out for that game.
And he was great.
Was great that day too. Yeah. He's also occasionally had to slot in at wing, which is something that Joe often mentions as being a good credit to him, because 1 or 2 injuries happened and he had to fill in on the wing and did a creditable job. Yeah, no, he's a sharp player, very quick, quite physical as well, and nippy around the fringes. He's kind of just an out and out halfback, does a bit of everything quite well and quite fast. Yeah. Where Luke McGrath would be the slightly more defensive minded scrum half. He's slightly slower, more deliberate off the base. He has decent fast hands, Joe, but he's definitely a bit more deliberate. What he does do is run excellent inside lines, a la Aaron Smith or something. He tracks the ball very well.
Marmion can do that too, though. No, I really do feel like it's going to be Marmion.
But that is up for debate. What isn't up for debate is that Conor Murray is the out and out starter, the best one in the country, and is absolutely vital to us going super well. I think.
And it sort of remains to be seen how he looks. I'd love to see him get a run out this weekend, and we're going to learn more about where Murray's at as it goes on, because he hasn't had a consistent bout of game time or form. So it remains to be seen where he'll be. Do we move on to the 10s?
I suppose so, onto that, finish up that halfback combination with fly halves, and Murray's partner in crime is obviously Johnny Sexton.
We can guess who's going to be starting.
Yeah.
Oh God, Sexton is on the big days. He is everything to this team. I mean, this team, they play conservative. They play with one distributor outside of 9, and that's Sexton. They do not play with another distributor, and it's been a source of controversy because our attack has at times been stalling. But Sexton runs the show. Even when the ball is going off 9, if you watch the game, if you watch lads who's going to play 10, Sexton's going to play 10. If you watch the game and you watch when Ireland are attacking narrow off 9, if you're in the ground and you just watch Sexton, he's directing everything. He's orchestrating absolutely everything. And Joe Schmidt is very, very analytical and very, very controlling in what he likes to do. Everyone outside of the decision makers is a utilitarian. They just run the plays that Joe's set up. Yeah. And Sexton is the guy that calls those plays. He manipulates the whole back line and the whole pack exactly where he wants them on attack and directs things. And he's everything to this Ireland team. And very vital to our chances.
Yeah. I'm inclined to agree with that comment there a little bit. Like McGrath and Sexton do combine pretty well for Leinster, but
I've just never seen Marmion look like a weakness.
I've
never seen any of it. He was brilliant against the All Blacks last year.
And it's the fact that Joe tends to trust the incumbents to a degree that leads me to believe that Marmion will be there.
The other thing that Marmion has done is covered wing. He has some game time on the wing for Ireland and tackled like a demon when he was there as well. And that versatility is something that Joe likes too. So I really do think it may be
Lukey who misses out, but Johnny is definitely going. He's currently being wrapped in cotton wool to prepare him for the fight. I don't know if we'll even see him this side. We may see him off the bench or something.
I think we'll see him play against Wales in the second test,
right?
But I don't think we'll see him before then.
Yeah, he's definitely being protected, especially given the Carberry injury. You can see there now behind Johnny Sexton we have Joey Carberry, who has been the Project 10. He was uprooted from Leinster, taken from us, and put down to Munster to get more game time at first 10, which is still a sore spot because I loved watching him play, and he looked great in blue.
In about, I think it was 2016, in the preseason of maybe either 2016 or 2015, Leinster got Graham Henry in to take a look at the team just as a consultant. Graham Henry's done a lot of that work. He did it for Argentina as well. Yeah. And he was going in as a consultant, and he took a look at Leinster, and he took a look at an afternoon at Joey Carberry. And his report back was, this guy's your 10 for the next decade.
Yeah.
He was very, very impressed. And Joey Carberry,
I really like him. I think I really like his lines that he runs. I like everything about him.
He's a very intelligent rugby player. Like he plays wonderfully from 15 as well. There's speculation he could probably play 12. I don't doubt it. Yeah. He has all the skills. He can kick off either foot, which is a very useful asset for a 10 as well, and kick accurately. And as his passing game as well, he has great vision.
Yes,
but also great feet. Like he really does have it all, which is why the injury was so ill-timed. But the fact that the report is that he's out for just about 6 weeks as of the Italy game a couple of weeks ago, which will leave him not available for the first or the second.
Yeah, the first two games are huge for Ireland. They're Japan and Scotland. They're the two games. Scotland we open with, and I think a 5-day turnaround for the Japan game, which are the two potential losses in the pool.
Yeah.
No disrespect, Samoa, but you're just not quite there.
Yeah.
But those are the two games to worry about. And I think the rumor is that they were just going to bring him and Sexton as 10s.
Yeah.
They're now going to bring a third 10 at the expense of Luke McGrath, probably.
Yeah.
And the reason that they're going to do that is they're going to bring him on the plane just to get him fit and ready for the quarterfinal. So it's a gamble. They're essentially going to go to those opening two games with a 30-man squad and hope that Carberry gets fit in time to play in the quarterfinal, because he's that important. He can come on and change the game. He can be that second distributor if we choose to use him that way and get him and Johnny on the field together.
Yeah.
And he's a guy who Joe likes and trusts and has a phenomenal skill set. So we're excited.
I'm sure they've got him in an oxygen tent and
all kinds of things. They're probably calling Waisaki Naholo's guy. Send him out there, fix him, get him ready. And
in behind them, it's a straight shootout between Ross Byrne and Jack Carty, who are a little bit behind, definitely a step back. Ross Byrne is more of an in the mold of Sexton 10. He has a great kicking game. He likes to sit pretty deep, but he's a guy you'd trust. He's a very good head on his shoulders, and he can play in teams that attack well. And he probably suits this Ireland team a little more than Carty. Carty's more of a running fly half, and even when he does kick, he doesn't really do it to contest. He does it to find corners.
Yeah.
So it's a little different from what Ireland tried to do. And for that reason, I think if Ross Byrne gets his form, I actually think Ross Byrne will nip in ahead of Carty.
I'm inclined to agree just because of that like-for-like match thing. I think Carty's had a stellar season for Connacht. Is an exciting playmaking kind of 10 in the kind of Finn Russell mold, but not on the same level. But he plays an exciting game like that. But what Joe would tend to prioritize from 10 purely because, as Dara was saying, it's a game with two distributors, your 9 and your 10, and because Rob Kearney's there to shore up the back line. There's not really that second distributing option other than Gary Ringrose at 13. So you're really going to want your 10 to be running the plays as they are in the prep. And I think Ross Byrne's probably better suited to do just that.
I'm looking at the caps, and if one of the top playmakers go, then the drop off in experience
it's definitely crazy.
Yeah.
Ross Byrne does have a lot of time. Like, they all have had some time in camp. But there's no question that in behind Sexton, they have been reaching for someone. And Carberry is the guy they've backed, and they put their faith in him. And that's an indication as to why, even with this injury, they're going to back him to come in and get better, because they're so uncertain about that experience. But Ross Byrne is just the kind of cool head who I think they could back to just go in and run the plays and not disrupt Joe's model too much. But obviously things will change. They'll play a lot more off 9, and Murray will do a lot more decision making if one of those guys.
And one thing about that cap count, it's 2 caps for Ross Byrne. Obviously, he didn't really get the run out this Six Nations. It was more Carty was favoured. But one thing he has had this season and last is big pressure moments in club footy, because Sexton's been protected so much. He has been the Leinster fly half for a lot of the season, and he's played in a lot of big knockout games, albeit in Leinster colours. So he's quite a calm head in that kind of fray, I suppose. In that kind of setting, he's more exposed to it than Carty is, because Carty, playing with Connacht, was at a lesser level of European competition and domestic competition. So that's something that will stand to Burns' credit, even though he's only got the 2 caps at international level. Yeah. He's been playing in some big games and been involved in some big moments.
Indeed,
I just saw that there was a comment earlier on there saying I'd play him at 15 and drop Rob for Marco
Carberry, is it?
I'd say that's for Carberry because that's
literally something we've been calling for.
We've been calling for that for quite a while. But, to my mind, as great as Carberry is, he's never looked better than when he was playing with Leinster with Johnny on the pitch and him at 15, and they have that dual distributing role and they can link with each other and make things very exciting.
The thing is, from the management's perspective, the reason that they won't do that is because they'll think that the trade-off is what they get in offense, they're going to lose in defense. Because Rob Kearney, who's the incumbent Ireland fullback, who we'll talk about in a moment, is so so there's a real debate going on here in these comments. Rob Kearney, the incumbent fullback, is so good defensively. He's so good at covering the backfield that he allows Ireland to put 13 or even 14 up in the defense.
That's what I've noticed. You see the defensive lines, almost 13, 14 players, and just got one.
Yeah. And that's just because Rob Kearney is that good at defending that space.
Rob Kearney has been doing it forever and is really good at covering the backfield. So he's very much a defensive fullback, but they feel that if they play someone else at fullback, they're going to lose what that gives them in defense. And they if Rob is fit, he plays. That's the plan.
But I still wouldn't disagree. Like whatever about dropping Rob, that's probably harsh and not right for this team as they're going to the World Cup. But if Joey Carberry's on the bench, he's an option at 10 cover, but he's also an option at 15.
Yeah.
That's why he's going on the plane and he's vital because in the big match in the quarterfinal, he'll be kitting out at 21 or 22 and be covering both fullback and
I think obviously in the last 20 minutes of a game when the game obviously opens up, maybe that's like what Bowden Barrett was in the last World Cup, come in the last 20 minutes.
Yeah. Similar role.
Something special,
It's not just even that. It's one of the things about this Ireland team is that they're so rudimentary in how they go about things. They have a plan to just contain and suffocate teams. They like to hold the ball, make teams make as many tackles as possible, control every aspect of the game. Yeah. And what happens is if the plan goes wrong, as you saw against both Wales and England, and you concede an early try or an early 2 tries, an early couple of scores, it ceases to become as good an option. And Ireland, under Joe Schmidt, have been really poor at coming back from being behind. And having Joey Carberry as an option to throw in and loosen up the attack would definitely be something that's valuable if Ireland fall behind, because at the moment it feels like there isn't a plan B. If a team blitzes us in the first 20 minutes and racks up a score, it's pretty much game over. We just don't come back.
We struggle to. We are not as efficient with how we score. But to be analogous with the NFL, like if we're to compare us to like an NFL side, Johnny Sexton's very much your quarterback in that role, and they do want to control possession. And like Ireland are innovating in that way. They're an interesting picture in this World Cup because they're one of the teams that do things like kill the clock through possession. They can go through like 10-minute spells of just holding the ball and run the clock down. And also just kind of get the other team on such a defensive mind frame where they're just tackling. And then when the ball is turned over or you kick it to them, suddenly the All Blacks or whoever aren't quite as good at executing in the space because they're a bit tired and a bit bamboozled. That's very much how they try to play the game. It's
they're a bit like if you watch Georgia at a tier 2 level, Ireland are very similar in that when they have the ball in the opposition 22, just about every other team in top tier rugby is thinking, right, how do we score a try? And Ireland would almost be like, we'll just hold the ball, we're going to tire these guys out, we're going to keep this ball down here for 10 minutes, we're going to get them a yellow card, and then we'll score a try. And that's like it's a very different mold, and it's kind of, you could argue, been found out in the last year in that they haven't been winning those games and teams have learned how to stop and defend them. But when it works, it's very
impressive because it tends to marry a few things. Like when Ireland are on form, they're probably the most disciplined of the tier 1 sides. When they're winning those contacts, they're very good at not being reckless and not getting on the wrong side of the ref. And so it's not uncommon for them to go through a game like 180 odd rucks and only like 3 penalties conceded at them. And that's a very impressive feat when you can pull it off. But the other side is like Mark O'Callaghan's saying there, we struggle to chase a game. If we're 2 tries down, it's almost game over.
It's a very interesting comment coming in there from Joe Lyons saying Robbie Henshaw has been playing, who we're about to talk about now as we move into the centres, saying Robbie Henshaw has been playing 15 in both Carton House and down in Portugal. I'm not sure, like I try to keep abreast of this stuff, and that's not something that I'd heard. I had heard, he started one game at 15 in Dublin earlier in the year against England, and was found out. I mean, he was all over the place. The guy hasn't played 15 since he was very young, and England just kicked the leather off the ball. They were kicked it to one side. Henshaw would run over, just about pick it up and boot it back in field, and then they'd move it right across to the other side and pitch it down into the corner. And they just made him look an absolute fool, and it really was a problem. Like, having one man cover the backfield, it just fell apart with him at fullback instead of Rob. Yeah. And I thought it was going to be experiment over. I'd much rather see Andrew Conway or Jordan Larmour or Joey Carberry cover that jersey than Robbie. So hopefully that's not.
The other side of it is I think Robbie Henshaw is one of the best defensive 12s out there when he's on form. So I would rather see him at 12 where he can have the most impact on a game for us.
Yeah.
But I suppose we will move on to the centres then, because there's debate on this. It's up in the air whether they'll bring 3 or 4.
Yeah, I really feel like they're going to want to bring all 4. They like and trust a lot of them. Maybe Chris Farrell will miss out. It's crazy to think Chris Farrell has just 6 caps, because he has been in a part of the squad and a part of the plan for, I think, north of 2 years now.
Yeah.
But he's just been besotted with injuries. But every time he's played, and I mean every time, he has been brilliant.
Yeah. Man of the match performance against Wales in 2018. Partnering Bundy Aki. Played at 12 last time out against Italy, which seems to be him trying to be a bit more versatile and test another combo.
He's sort of like if you want an analogous in terms of frame and in terms of the way he plays the game, it's a little more Sonny Bill than anything else. He doesn't have the same offloading game as Sonny Bill, but he does have slick hands.
Yeah.
And he also likes to lead the defensive line.
He does.
And did so very well for Munster this year.
Yeah.
So
he was
a guy they would value.
He was if you want a good example of his defensive chops, he watched the game they played against Saracens this year in the semi-final. He actually shut down what was the meanest, most aggressive offense in the tournament. He basically shut them down. They lost that game in other areas, but the 13 channel and the whole back play was stifled by Chris Farrell getting in their face.
And it was about the only time that season that happened to Saracens. It was Chris Farrell mainly who did it to him.
Yeah.
So you would not worry about him. Yeah. Henshaw and Aki, both sort of 12/13s, preferably 12. Mm-hmm. Henshaw's just above Aki because of what he gives you defensively.
Yeah.
And they're very much like for like. Joe trusts them. They have plenty of caps. And then, they're going to be in there very, very much your fundamental rudimentary 12s, not especially magnificent on offense, but solid defensively and offensively. Yeah. And Gary Ringrose at 13 is going to be our starting 13 simply because he offers the most from an offensive perspective.
Yeah. He takes the fact that we're playing with only that one distributor in Sexton outside of 9 means that there's such an onus on the 13 to be able to play other players into the game. And Gary Ringrose is a guy who can do that. He can actually link up for a few moves, can slot into first receiver from time to time when Sexton's on the ground somewhere. So he's very important to Ireland's chances, because the fact that Rob is so undroppable from a defensive point of view really does make Gary Ringrose undroppable too, because from an offensive point of view. Because if you were to pick a centre partnership of Bundy Aki and Chris Farrell and have Rob Kearney at fullback, then suddenly you're not creative enough. Like they're all very good players. I see some chat about Keith Earls playing 13. He has done, but he's not an entity at 13. He's too soft on defense. Doesn't quite read the game as well from 13.
He's not a legitimate option.
No, especially with Chris Farrell and Ringrose, they are both legitimate options at 13. But Ringrose is a little bit more flair. They'll be hoping he finds good form, because when Ireland are playing well, he is kind of the key creative man in that back line.
And then I guess we'll move on to the outside backs. I mean, my instinct is that they'll bring all 4 of those centres, but they could just bring 3.
And if it's 3, it will be Chris Farrell who misses out, which is unfortunate.
Yeah. The interesting thing about this back 3 is that with Marmion as cover and with Carberry potentially as cover, they may just bring 4.
Yeah, it's possible.
The starting guys, Rob Kearney at fullback, who we've talked about. Keith Earls is going to be on one wing, and Jacob Stockdale, who is our secret weapon, will be on the other wing, with Larmour as cover, who could be another guy who could take over in this World Cup. But very much the danger there is Jacob Stockdale.
100%. He is a try scorer. He's an absolute finisher on the wing. Quite a tall, rangy player as well. Has a good left-footed chip over the top. Can regather. He's just one of those wingers that the ball tends to bounce for him as well. It's like that curious quality in a finisher that he definitely has. Whereas Earls on the other wing is a bit more of a utilitarian kind of jack of all trades type winger. He does a lot of rooking, does a lot of kind of good defensive work, tracks back very, very well.
Yeah, his scramble D is very good as well.
Yeah, he's kind of a partner to Rob Kearney in terms of covering that backfield properly, and allows Jacob the free rein to be put into space. And one thing that Joe Schmidt has been good at is putting together little plays and sequences and shapes that give Stockdale the ball.
Yeah, if Ireland are an NFL style team, which I think they secretly want to be. I mean, Sexton talks a lot about Tom Brady, and they really do have sort of an NFL mold.
Yeah.
You have your pack, your forward pack around the fringes are your running backs. Just running it up the middle. They're all fullbacks. They're all just keeping it tight. Sexton's your quarterback, and Stockdale is your star wide receiver.
He is.
And the whole offensive game is about getting Stockdale and putting him into space and making him one-on-one with his man, because he is where, for a long time now, a lot of Ireland's tries have come through him.
Yeah.
And you have little clever set-piece moves just to get Stockdale one-on-one. And we saw it this year against Scotland. We saw it last year against the All Blacks. We saw it last year against just about everybody. I think he is great. Will Addison is, as Joe Lyons points out, someone I'd very much like to see. He has virtually no experience at test level, but is another exciting offensive player who can play fullback, wing, center, and plays the game offensively. He would give us another attacking dynamic. I'd love to see him in the squad
for sure.
But he'll have to play and impress.
Yes,
if he wants
this
to
is it. He's there as potential fullback cover, but so too is Andrew Conway. They're the two boys in they're possibly, it depends how Joe wants to configure the squad, but they're definitely two guys fighting for their place, two guys who both play fullback behind Carney, obviously, but they also can slot in on wing. Addison himself has played 13 a lot for Ulster as well. I tend to think he won't be utilised for Ireland. He's a little bit soft in the contact even at club level from 13, but he's definitely one who can slot out in the backfield, and he could give Ireland a bit more attacking impetus from fullback. Which is an exciting thing to see. We'd kind of like to see him kid out against England maybe this weekend, but he's an exciting guy who has been doing a really good job for Ulster and could make a run for the playing.
I think if they're going to bring 5 outside backs, unless they just want to bring 5 back rowers, they will probably have to not bring Chris Farrell, which I actually don't think Joe wants. I think Joe's going to want all 4 of the centres, and I think there's some chance that he might just bring 4 of these guys. He might just bring the back 3 as is, Carney, Earls and Stockdale, and then Jordan Larmour, who'll take the 23 shirt. And Jordan Larmour is a guy who burst onto the scene last year, famous for being a hot stepper. Everyone can step a guy in a phone box, is extremely quick. Needs to work on his link-up play a little bit, but
has been.
And he's a guy who could just take off in this World Cup. If things are going well, you might see Larmour being an amazing influence
on the end of all kinds of tries.
Yeah, he's an exciting talent. I think that'll about cover it, I guess.
I'm just seeing Joe Lyons coming in with Earl's a wonderful player, and he is, and lightning strong. What Earls brings you is defensive surety in terms of how they cover that backfield and how they tackle and resource rucks in the wide channels. But there's definitely an argument for throwing Larmour in there because he's a bit more razzle-dazzle, a bit more flash, probably a bit more pacey at this point as well. But
we have an intruder in the chat.
I see someone yelling All Blacks. It's nothing to do with the All Blacks. Sure, you have Bledisloe. Go and enjoy it.
Keeping tabs.
It's all greens. That's where we're at. It's green time today. And that is the Ireland squad as is. And it's a good squad. To be honest, it's a much better 31-man squad than we've probably ever assembled for a World Cup. Even in years gone by when we've gone there with high hopes, like I'm thinking 07, which was a disaster, but it was really like coming off the back of a great season, but it was really only a first 15 that we were bringing. We weren't bringing a full 31-man thing to the party, which is exactly what you need when men go down. And it was a big learning that Joe Schmidt was talking about coming away from last World Cup, was just the lack of depth, because when O'Connell went down and Sexton went down and all these guys went down, and then suddenly there was nothing coming behind. And that was what was cited as a big part of the failure in the quarterfinals. So he's definitely worked on that a lot in the interim. These 4 years have really been about building that depth. And now we have probably the strongest squad we've ever assembled to bring. It's just whether the doubts are all more about stylistic things, and are we going to create enough to get over the line? And
from our perspective, we'd obviously love them to be a little more offensive, a little more versatile. But if you completely divorce the patriotism from it, they're a really interesting team to look at in a bit of a similar way to Georgia, because they go about it not quite like anybody else. It's possession based. They play, when Ireland play games, the games have way more rucks than in any other top tier game. We play high attrition, high control, low degree of risk taking, very risk averse, but low degree of risk taking, very risk averse. Interesting question about Larmour backing up the hype. I'm not sure either, but we'll see.
We'll see. The World Cup's the place for that hype to come to a head.
But very, very, very risk averse, very much controlled. Not a lot of flair, not a lot of attack, but quite a bit of kicking for the ball. Possession is 9/10 of the plan.
Yes.
And just looking to suck the oxygen out of opponents rather than to maybe go try for try with them.
Yeah.
And from that perspective, it's very interesting. Some fans hate it. Some fans can't stand to look at it. It's a bit of an uglier way, but I think it adds color to the game, and it's definitely a different way of going about things.
Yeah.
And I'd be curious from a non-partisan perspective to see how it goes.
Yeah.
If a little skeptical as to whether or not they can actually win the thing. Yeah. But obviously from a partisan perspective.
Well, that's gonna bring me back to my really big question.
Yeah.
Because we always ask this question at the end of this end of the show. Where do you think Ireland will be in the World Cup? Heart and head.
I'll start.
You go ahead.
Heart, obviously, they're going to win it. 30 points to 0 against South Africa in the final.
Yes.
They're going to actually go through the whole tournament without conceding a point.
Yep.
But if I'm honest, I think I get the impression that they're going about things well enough to get through the group with top position. So I think they'll beat Scotland. Japan is scary, genuinely. Japan, nobody should underestimate Japan. Yeah. They are scary. And while we haven't seen Ireland yet in the World Cup, Japan could get them. But my instinct says that Ireland will be too strong for Japan. They were when they toured there a year and a half ago, and they probably will be again. And then they're going to top that group. They're going to play, I think, the All Blacks, and I think they'll get through that game.
Hopefully.
And I think they will lose to either Wales or England in the semi-final. That's my head.
That's where your head's at.
I can't see the attritional way that Ireland play carry through for 7 straight weeks. I just think it'll catch up with them eventually. Yeah. They will get caught one of the games, and they won't have the offense to answer it. Yeah. And just the bludgeoning way, the way it takes it out of you playing the way they play, they'll just end up being, after perhaps a Herculean effort in the quarterfinal, they'll just be a little too tired. I
also think the draw, you've got, I think, what you said, 5 days between the one game. That's
that's rough, and that's the Japan game as well. Yeah. That's why the Japan game can be so scary.
Japan game is the most dangerous one because, as you were pointing out, like they can't come back. They struggle to come back, and Japan are excellent in the first 20 minutes, and they're fast in the first 20 minutes. And if they score 2 tries very early on, this Ireland team struggle to come back into a game, even though they should be too strong for Japan. Yeah. So that's a worry. I'm gonna vote with my heart, as I did last year, and say we're going to win the damn thing. Yeah. Yes, which didn't go as well for me 4 years ago, as I recall. But I'm gonna stick with my guns and say we're going all the way.
I hope so,
because it would be an amazing story. I think Ireland have been doing professionalism very well, have been growing their clubs very well, have got some European pedigree, have got some trophies. Both Munster and Leinster have been giants of the European game. I would love to see it all come good, because I think this time, unlike any time before, no jersey is fully safe, and they are rotating players more than they used to, where before it was just like you had the jersey and you couldn't be dropped, so you're going to play all the games, all the minutes, and then they get tired. My concern is, as Dara points out, that maybe we're a bit too attritional, not quite as economical with our forward efforts. We probably go through too many phases and don't get enough tries. Whereas what I was saying about the likes of France and Australia, even though I think they're getting much more wrong than this Ireland team are, I think they play a style of game that's less attritional and is more conducive to going on a run that can potentially just grab a load of tries and steal a tournament. Whereas this Ireland team, if they're going to win it, it's going to be the hard way. Yeah. And it'll be the very hard way, because they're quite
I've always thought New Zealand, they have this what's an economy of effort.
Yeah.
And, they let the other team play, and then as soon as they hit the 22, 30 seconds score, let you carry on playing.
Exactly.
I've always thought that the economy of play, I just thought they were really good at it.
There's definitely something in that. I don't like this is where I'm not convinced that Ireland are getting it fully right in their approach, however colourful it is, and I'm hoping that we are just able to control our way all the way to the final. But there's definitely something to be said for the killer pass. And that's something that this team miss all the time. They do a lot of great work in the tight, win collision after collision, and then suddenly it's on. And you can see it. And sometimes, like it happened when we were touring Australia a couple of years ago in the second test, there was a moment under Australian commentary where it's like we go inside and you just hear the Aussies going, they're strung out wide. And what do? We switch back inside and get poached by Pocock. We are not the best team at recognizing where the try is.
Extremely risk averse. And Joe Schmidt will give out to players if they throw a 50-50 pass and it doesn't come off. He'll give them.
He doesn't do 50-50.
No, he doesn't. And that's the thing is, so unless it's an absolute banker of a try, they're not going to take it on. They're just going to take it right back into contact, and that's where all those rucks come from. So they're not as clinical, and there isn't that economy of effort that you talk about, and that could
be against them in the end.
What they do have, to be fair, is a blitzkrieg set piece play. Yeah, that's what they like to do. If you look at the England game in Twickenham last year, there was a lovely set piece move off a line out that got them the try. Stockdale's try against New Zealand last autumn, set piece move again. They love to work off set pieces. So ideally, they're controlling the game, building points, and then getting one key try off a set piece move, and that's the plan.
Yeah. I'm seeing just a few comments coming in talking about points. Yeah, we will be looking for 3-pointers, of course, throughout in knockout rugby mode as well.
But Ireland, more than any other team, they actually turn them down just to keep possession and territory right where they want it. So they will kick to the corner and then spend another 10 minutes, even if they just end up taking 3 eventually anyway.
Yeah.
They see every minute that they're in the opposition 22, forcing the opposition to make tackles as a win.
As a win, yeah. So it's an interesting philosophy on the game, I suppose, that Ireland are bringing this time round that I'm hoping pays good dividends. And I think, to be honest, it does actually, that possession game matches up pretty well against the likes of the All Blacks, who really like to get their hands on the ball and play themselves into the games. So if you do, as we managed to a couple of times in the cycle, just hold the ball relentlessly and not let them have it, then they struggle to get into the game. So I'm thinking in the context of a quarter-final, that could be our recipe to get through to the semi. But I do think it's an attritional game that matches up pretty poorly against a game day Wales or England or the Box, who are game for matching the physicality. Yeah, and then they probably have all of those teams have more.
Wales and England did do a job on it earlier in the season, so you would hope to see a little more, but that could be danger.
Yeah. But I'm still saying we're going to win. Yeah.
I think we're all the same. I think even when we lost 57-0 to the All Blacks, I still thought we were going to win the World Cup.
Yeah, so. You may well have been right.
You could be right. No one's been proven wrong yet.
Yeah. I think that was the day to put the money on it. If you were going to make a bet, the day after they lost 57-0 was the time to do it.
Yeah, it would have been nice.
I was going through the history books, and I think it was exactly the same time we lost 47-0 to Australia.
Oh, wow.
The time we won the World Cup. So
there you go.
If you read into anything like that, we'll all keep everything crossed. My fingers are crossed from over here. And as we say, the dream scenario is Ireland v the Box for the win.
Yeah, I think so. I'd love to see it.
That's the dream final.
You guys just have to beat New Zealand.
Yeah, do us a favor and actually beat New Zealand on week 1. That'd be safe.
Well, to be honest, any team who wants to win the World Cup has to beat New Zealand at some point.
That's exactly true. So I would rather see it in the quarterfinal, to be honest, because I think a quarterfinal is basically an Ireland team's cup final, because we've never been past that stage. Very famously, never got past it. Yeah. And it's still a monkey on the backs of all the players going there, however good they've been, however many trophies they've won since. Yeah. It's still a question mark of can they get past the quarterfinal. And this year, more than any year, it's stacked up so harshly because we're either playing the Springboks or the All Blacks, and that's couldn't get more tough. Or Italy. No.
Don't forget Italy.
I'm forgetting Italy. At this point now, I'm drawing the line. No, it's either going to be the Springboks or the All Blacks. So it's a huge test, but it's basically a cup final. So there's no question of coming in cold or not being motivated. They're going to be motivated for that no matter what. So may the cards fall where they may.
Yeah.
Now, what we'll do is when we chat about, I think there's only 2 real big games this weekend. I think 2 internationals.
Yeah.
Just quick run through of those 2 games. What do you think let's start with the Scotland-France game. What do you think Scotland need to do to actually? Do you think they need to get some momentum, or aren't they really concerned?
Yeah, I think so. I think they won't be both. The thing about last week's game, and while France were very impressive in it, the thing about it is that both of these sides famously are polar opposites, home and away.
Yeah.
So Scotland getting back to Murrayfield, they've actually made 14 changes to this team. So they've changed virtually the whole team, and they've got a load of big players back in. Nell to hold down their scrum. Hamish Watson, who's so key to everything that they do up front. He's a phenomenal worker in the back row. Great poacher, great ball carrier, awesome player. He's going to make a huge change. And obviously Finn Russell coming back into the side is massive as well in terms of running the back line.
So they got people now to play.
We're going to learn a lot more. We're going to learn a lot more about where Scotland are at, and we're going to learn a lot more about where France are at.
True. It'll be see if they can match that effort and that verve, because they like France came into that game and from minute one they hit the ground running, were very aggressive, very impressive. It's just with both these sides, are they going to replicate it away from home? One thing I will say about this warm-up this set of fixtures is I actually think it's very wise for both of these teams, given what they'll be faced with in the World Cup, to be playing each other. Scotland will be worried about Japan. Japan is their big test, and Japan play quite a fast and loose game that's not dissimilar to what France bring. So the fact that they were so unable to stop it last week will worry them. That's the main change they want to see this week. Can they contain what the French are looking to bring? Because that's what they're going to be faced with against Scotland. And similarly, France are really like eyeballing Argentina.
To Argentina.
The way Argentina play is not dissimilar to the way this Scotland side approach the game, and France are looking to prep for that as well. So it's wisdom on both their parts to be sharing these fixtures. And
I don't know what's going to happen. It'll be curious. I think a lot of it will depend on how that Scottish back row, Ryan Wilson, Hamish Watson, and Blade Thompson, if they can slow French ball, if they can stop them at source at all, that'll be huge. But if the French backline can get a bit of forward momentum going, I don't see Scotland's defence containing them, and it could be a similar story.
One thing they have got, they've opted for Peter Horn in the centre, who's a second distributor from 12, is a little bit soft in that contact area. So France did flood that midfield with a lot of runners last week. They'll probably look to do something similar. The question mark on Scotland is, can they stop them? Can they slow them?
Or will they put Blade Thompson and Hamish Watson in those channels defensively?
Hopefully,
quite likely. But I think if you're optimistic, both of these sides play lovely attacking footy, and I think this game could be licensed to just see great tries. I think it'll be a little more tit for tat than last week, and both sides will probably get some good scores. It'll be one to watch for the neutrals, I think.
I think so. Yeah, probably a good spectacle all around, and some learnings too, but mainly that. Like Scotland would like to get the win. It's more important for Scotland that they get a win just off, but it's not vital. They'll just look for an improved performance and particularly an improved defence. Yeah.
Then obviously the other non-important game for the weekend.
Absolutely trivial matters now. It's only Twickenham, isn't it?
This is a scary game. Just for loads of reasons. Like, I don't know what kind of team Ireland are going to pick, but England are probably, this is England's last pre-World Cup game.
Against a top team.
Yeah, against a top tier team. They're playing Italy on the 6th of September, but that's not the same thing. So this is
the last time that they can get their combinations 100%.
Yeah. And it's at home, so you think they're going to roll out most of their big guns.
It's going to be their full team. You're going to have Mako, George, Sinclair. You're going to have Itoji. They might rotate Billy Vunipola just because he's played the last 2 weeks.
And they're a little unsure as to what's behind him, similar to the issue with South Africa with Vermeulen. Yeah. They don't quite know what happens if Billy V goes down, so they may try someone else.
They will probably get Farrell and Slade in. And the way England go about these teams is they look to physically dominate you early doors. They look to blitz you in the opening 20 minutes. And with Farrell and Slade, they're going to look to execute more slick attacking footy once they do get that upper hand going forward. But Ireland are out of practice.
Yeah,
Ireland are not up to match level fitness, and if they're any way off the pace in this game in Twickenham, it could be an early doors.
It could be ugly. Which happened earlier on. They caught us with our pants down in the first game of the season in the Six Nations and really put them to the sword. That could happen again because like the intensity of that game in Cardiff last week. The Irish boys have not lived or felt anything like that. Obviously not since last season. So they are coming in a little bit cold, a little bit kind of half boiled compared to where the English lads are at. So I'm curious to see if we will be able to match their physicality. And that leads me to believe you may see a few like more Irish front runners. You might see James Ryan out there. You might see Cian Healy, Ty Furlong, just because the physicality will be such a focus. Yeah. There'll definitely be one or two little other combinations in there, but I may see Murray and Sexton as well.
You won't see Sexton.
You won't see Sexton. There's rumours that he's sitting out training, so it'll probably be Ross Byrne with Carty on the bench. But for the most part, the pack will be pretty close to our full pack to try and be able to contain that early English physicality and onslaught that we know is coming.
I think quietly, the Irish coaching staff would be happy just to lose this game by a score. Yeah. England are so much further on. They've already played a couple of matches against Wales. They're so much further up to speed. It's a game in Twickenham. It's scary. Like they would love to get out of there with no injuries and not a big loss. They'd take it.
Why does the world absolutely hate England? All kinds of historical reasons. Don't be worried about it. In rugby, it's more fun and jest.
In the pages of your history book, you might find a clue or two.
Yeah. But no, it's always fun to beat England in Twickenham. I would love to see us be able to nick that win. But what I wouldn't like to see is a crazy helter-skelter physical game that ends up leaving a trail of bodies on either side, which it may very well be, because you got a little glimpse into that with Wales, England last week. Like, these teams historically, traditionally, don't really like to take a back step against one another at all. No matter if it's World Cup warm-up or any kind of thing, first game of the season or no, they want to be getting stuck in and making some statements. So I'd expect Ireland to come with that intention. It's whether they can actually match what England have at the moment, and whether their conditioning is such that they'll be able to live with the pace of the game. But if they do, what Schmidt will be looking for is set piece, your line out, your scrum, even things like restart and exit. He's a big stickler for that, and you want to see that improve upon the Italy performance. And then we're just slowly building towards being right for the World Cup in terms of intensity. But I would say that England are favourites for this game.
Oh, totally.
By far. Yeah. Sure, like all the warm-up games so far, the home team has won. And
literally
every single one. And I don't think that's going to change. Unfortunately, I'd be delighted if it did. And I think it would be a good thing for our confidence, considering what happened.
Number one in the world if we win it.
Number one in the world if we win it as well. That would be a nice little feather in the cap. But it's more interesting to me that we have a good performance, get some things right, and get out of there without an injury.
Yeah.
That would be perfect for me.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
Perfect. Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I think we're at 90 minutes. So I think
90 minutes. Yeah.
Knock it on the head.
Have we broken our record?
I think we broke our record.
I think we have.
Yeah. Thanks for everyone sticking with us.
If people want to follow your channel, I'll put a link down to Overlap Rugby down. But if you just want to introduce your channel to everyone.
Yeah, we do a podcast every week that goes often about 2 hours, and we break it up into shorter vids, and that's all at Overlap Rugby on YouTube, which is youtube.com/Overlap Rugby podcast. If you want to get in touch with us for anything formal, our Gmail, overlaprugbypodcast@gmail.com, and you can reach out to us on Twitter either if you like, Overlap Rugby on Twitter. But mostly it's on YouTube. The channel's Overlap Rugby, and we post every week.
Mm-hmm. Are you still there? Are we losing?
Oh, sorry.
Be breaking up quite a bit at the moment, but
it is now.
A little now, getting choppy. Sure, we'll knock it on the head. So,
hey guys, well, I think we'll end it there, and then thanks everyone for joining us on the live feed. It was actually quite nice. I think we got up to about 20 viewers at one point, which is pretty great.
Yeah,
nice questions.
All of them seemingly interacting. So.
Yeah. Great to have a few questions as well. Happy to answer them.
Yeah. Thanks very much for having us.
Cheers. Thanks again, though.
Cheers.
All right.
I think